Welcome everyone to today's session, making the gift processing easy for the Blackbaud Razor's Edge NXT folks. Let me introduce you to the team. Myself, I am Julio Perez. I am the technical sales engineer here at PaperSoft. I will be leading today's session and going through today's demo. Alongside with us, we do have Nick and Joseph, who's part of our team. Nick as an account executive, Joseph as part of the business development representative. So they will be on here as well to answer questions for you and also follow up after this session. A little bit about today's agenda. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about PaperSave, what PaperSave is as an application, and we're going to dive into our best practices for the gift processing team and that batch entry. A little bit about PaperSave. PaperSave is a natively integrated revenue automation solution with centralized document management. We've been in the Blackbaud space now for over 20 plus years. So a lot of what you'll see here is has that same look and feel as Blackbaud does, right? When we say that PaperSave is a document management software, we say that because we have native integrations into actions, appeals, campaigns, constituents, events, funds, gifts, and opportunities. These are all areas in PaperSave where you will be able to add documents to those corresponding records, right? So drive that paperless effort. A brand to be trusted by thousands. So this is some of our claim to fame here as part of our PaperSave integration into Blackbaud. And we'll dive right into some of the components that we'll be talking about today that really encapsulates what a workflow process is for PaperSave. Part of that is how easy it is to bring documents into PaperSave, right? So we have the ability to scan documents into the system if you have a local scanner attached to your laptop or desktop. We do have electronic submissions in the event that, for example, you have virtual files that your vendors or constituents are sending you, or even if you're downloading files or gifts from a lockbox provider. You'll be able to use electronic document submission or attaching of files to get documents right into PaperSave to begin that batch entry and to get that batch created within PaperSave. One of those neat tools that we have on our belts when it comes to acquiring documents into the system is that for large volumes of gifts coming in-house, for example, paper form still coming in through the mail, we also have the ability to monitor inboxes of emails. So PaperSave can plug in right into an inbox of an email and be able to grab items right from that inbox and put that right into your workflow for processing. So lots of ways to get documents into your PaperSave workflow. Redaction. Redaction is a very important one part of our workflows, and we do have redactions two ways. We have redaction automatically, where PaperSave can redact bank and routing information as these gifts are being scanned into PaperSave. And you also have manual redaction so that users can take a conscious decision and say, yeah, this is some of the data that I want to be kept safe, and I don't want to bring that into the software, right? So there's several ways to redact information in PaperSave. We're also going to be working on how to search for documents in the system, right? So once you get your batch created in PaperSave and those documents associated to those gifts inside of the application, with our search tools, you will be able to pull documents right out of PaperSave and not even have to be in Razor's Edge for that, right? So part of our standalone applications is a search capability that encompasses simple search, which just allows you to type in one single value, like a name of a constituent, a fund, a campaign, and PaperSave will use that value to search everywhere in the system for that information. Advanced search, on the other hand, is a very neat tool for reporting purposes, for audit trails. Advanced allows us to add some filters and set some parameters so that we can search out of the system with a little bit more of intent, right? Really good for reporting to higher learning, for audit purposes, and we'll walk through that here in just a second. And then ultimately workflows, right? What we will walk through today is a gift processing workflow where PaperSave can help you batch your gifts and then ultimately alleviate that data entry by creating that batch for you in RENXT. But PaperSave has other types of workflows where, for example, one of those is side-by-side, where you can scan in a document into a side-by-side workflow, have a picture of an image on one monitor, have Razor's Edge on another, use that image to do data entry, click on save, and that document would be automatically associated to that record. Or we have what is called auto associate workflows, where you can scan in things like acknowledgement letters, gift agreements, and put those all into PaperSave, into a workflow. And we use lookups that look into Razor's Edge data. So if you need, for example, a document to be associated into a constituent, we would add a constituent lookup, allows you to connect to that data, search for that constituent. Once you select that constituent, you can click submit, and a copy of that document goes right to that constituent. Same thing goes for gifts, right? We can grab those documents and send a copy to an existing record if you're getting things like maybe supporting documents to the gifts that we're putting into the system. All right, so with all that said, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up PaperSave so they can walk through some of these items here. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right into our workflows. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on workflows for us here. And I'm gonna click on add. So as you saw, many different ways to get those documents into the system. Again, that local scanner support, network scanners. We also have support for check scanners that I didn't mention, but check scanners is also something that PaperSave is able to interact with if you're just scanning in checks and not checks plus envelopes and or correspondent letters or things like that. If you are receiving documents from a lockbox, PaperSave can use those files right from the lockbox provider. You can drag and drop those items or navigate to where those items are saved, select a bunch of files, and bring that right into PaperSave. I'm bringing in a small batch, but ultimately you can bring in anywhere from 40 to about 100 gifts at once, depending on how many documents they are, depending how big those files are, right? So ultimately, if you are bringing things from a lockbox, you can navigate and select a bunch of items at once and bring that right into the system to get those items into your workflow to start that gift processing, right? So I hit OK, and then PaperSave gives me a couple of options here. We do have the ability to process gifts outside of a batch. Most of our clients do batch processing, right? So we do have the ability to auto-generate a batch number, which basically just grabs today's date plus the next chronological batch order number in RENXT. But we also have the ability to type in a batch name ourselves, right? So if you have a naming convention that you're currently using, or for example, some of our clients have multiple gift processors, right? Our naming convention is pretty flexible, so you can actually add the initials of a gift processor, today's date, and your batch number, whatever that may be, right? What's cool about this is these fields, these batch number fields are searchable in PaperSave, right? So ultimately later on, when you create that batch in the system, you can use that batch number to pull that right back out of the system for reporting purposes, audit trails, or whatever the case may be. And we'll go through that here in a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and auto-generate a batch number for us. Also, worth mentioning here, we do have the ability to set defaults, okay? So if the batch that you're processing happens to be all for a certain campaign that you're running and you have separated that by fund, campaign, appeal, you can tell PaperSave what that is right now, and PaperSave will be able to apply that code to all of those items within that batch, right? So we have a way for us to set defaults, right? And we can set multiple defaults and have different drop points with different defaults depending on how you create that batch, right? So ultimately, if there is a rhyme or reason in that batch, meaning all that code happens to coincide with each other because of that campaign or whatever the case may be, then you can set defaults in PaperSave and just tell it, hey, all of these items are going to be coded to this, and we will again add that code to all of those gifts all at once. In a second here, I'll show you where PaperSave can be a little bit more dynamic and read that code off of the documents if needed. But for right now, we have set some defaults. I'm gonna hit OK. And then next thing that happens as these items are traveling into my workflow is that OCR, our optical character recognition, is going to grab these GIFs and is starting to do the analytical work for us, right? So our workflows do include OCR, right? And OCR, again, is our optical character recognition. Really what that means is that we have a function in our workflows that reads the faces of your checks plus correspondence cards if you're scanning that alongside of your checks. We're reading information right off of this and of these documents and searching your Blackbaud Razor's Edge database for some of that data. And actually, Blackbaud just did that for us and it just finished. And I'll explain really everything that just happened here. So a couple of things. I'm going to change to a different example here so we can touch on all of those points. And I'll pull that up here. So what's happening is that OCR is reading information right off of these checks to populate your profile fields, right? These fields here that we call profile fields are fields that PaperSave is going to use to actually create that gift batch for you in the system, right? So what's happening here is that OCR uses that AI technology to read information right off of these checks. We are natively connected to Blackbaud, so we go off of to Blackbaud and read information right off of that Blackbaud database. Once we find the constituent, then we're going to populate these fields for you, right? So ultimately, we look at the address of the constituent since we're natively integrated to Blackbaud, right? So these lookup fields that you see here are searching live data in Blackbaud. So ultimately, we looked at the address, went into your constituent database, made a match, and we rendered the constituent for you, right? Ultimately, we're also going to give you the amount, the date, and again, here's some of that coding that we defaulted. Now, if you have, for example, reply devices that you're scanning along with these documents, and in those reply devices, you happen to have that code that you need for that gift. With OCR, we're able to teach how to read that code. And I'm putting up an example of what that looks like. Just bear with me a second. Here we go. So this is a reply device that was scanned in with a check. If you have codes added to these reply devices, you don't have to set defaults, right? You could teach OCR to read the codes right off of your reply devices, making OCR a little bit more dynamic, right? We will use the check to get to the constituent and then that reply device to get to that rest of that coding, right? Alongside with that, we also have that redaction, as I mentioned, right? So this is the automatic redaction. As those checks come in, we can apply automatic redaction. Also, here is your manual redaction if you ever wanted to redact something manually. The vision within our workflows are basically we grab all of these GIFs, put them through PaperSave, use OCR to read information out of your checks, connect to that Blackbaud data to pull in the rest of that data when needed. And then ultimately, once you're ready, you can select that batch, right? And click submit and send that batch right into Blackbaud to get that batch data entry created for you, okay? So OCR reads information right off of your checks and your reply devices. We put that right into a workflow. That gift processor can validate to make sure that OCR has coded everything. And again, this is things that OCR will continue to learn on and be built intelligence on and remember some of that code. But ultimately, OCR will correct itself once you have taught it what the information is on these checks. So yeah, so once you're ready to create your batch, click submit, and now we're sending that batch right into Blackbaud, okay? Now here, I will highlight that in our workflows, you could have multiple gift processors in the system at once, right? And not step on each other's toes. That's sort of what you're seeing here. Tammy owns a batch, I own a batch. So there can be multiple gift processors in the system owning a batch and be able to process their own batch without, again, stepping on each other's toes. The reason why I see both batches is because I am an administrator. So as an administrator, you get to see all batches in the system. All right, ultimately, I'm gonna go ahead and click on submit. We verified our batch. We're ready to get that batch created. Clicking submit, again, begins that data entry for us, right? So we grab all of those gifts. We now send that into Blackbaud, and that batch creation has started. Potentially, if you reviewed both batches and you had 2 batches ready to process, you could select all of your items and send that all into Blackbaud all at once, right? You don't necessarily have to do this on a one-see basis. You review all of your items, select all of that, and then you can send that all to Blackbaud. PaperSave does validate and operate under the same rules that Razor's Edge has. So if we do have any of our items within our batch that may have some incorrect coding, maybe you're posting something to a post date that is closed, or you're sending something in without a fund ID or anything like that, it would be rejected by Blackbaud, and we will allow you to make some corrections and send that right back up to Blackbaud to have that full batch created for you, okay? We're not gonna reject a full batch just because one item is incorrect. We will move the item that has issues into a rejected step, let you know that there's some items that need your attention, but the rest of those gifts will be created in the system, okay? And PaperSave does have ways to send out email notifications to gift processors if there's any failures within that batch, so that, again, we alert that there's an issue with that process, okay? All right, our batch has been now sent to Blackbaud. We're gonna go right into Blackbaud. We're gonna go right into our gift management. Now, all batches that come into Blackbaud sent by PaperSave do come in unapproved, right? So if you wanted to make any changes to that batch, this is the time that you have to make those changes before you actually approve that batch into the system, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and grab that batch number for us, because we're going to need that in just a second. All right. Right, if there's no changes needed, select all of your items, hit approve, and now PaperSave has done that data entry for you, okay? Again, invoices came in, OCR'd, we validated, click a button, batch is now sent and created in the system for you, right? Now, we're gonna go ahead and pick on next gen data system here as an example. So not only did we just create the batch, but the document, that gift, right, that we saw was now sent to that record as well. And that's what we'll see here in just a second. So I am at a constituent level, right? And if you've never seen PaperSave inside of NXT before, we are a native tile, right? Right now, what you're seeing is a constituent and documents that have been added to that constituent for supporting documents, right? Supporting purposes. So that's sort of what you're seeing here. But if we scroll down a little bit more, here's your givings history. We click on one of these gifts, that will come up for us here. And ultimately, this is what we created through PaperSave. We create the gift for you, right? With all of the information from those fields that you saw in PaperSave, plus we attach a copy of a document right alongside of that gift, right? Click on that link. You now have a way to get to that document right from within that gift, right? Click on the bottom left corner. And this is your audit trail, right? This is your accountability. So if you're ever audited, this shows you timestamps of when that gift was brought into the system and who brought that gift into the system. If you're ever audited, you can actually download that out of the system fairly quickly. Click on that hourglass there, and you get a history, right? You get the coding of that gift, a copy of that check redacted, plus again, that audit trail, right? Who created this gift into the system, right? So something that you're able to always get to from within that tile, from within that gift that we created. Now, this is in a nutshell automation, right? So this is a workflow for us to help you create that batch into the system. Now, as we mentioned, PaperSave is a document management software as well. So this is a perfect time to go paperless, right? Get all of those documents that you have in drawers or in boxes and scan those into that constituent. You will have this tile through all of those different record types, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, right? To add a document, click on that plus sign, right? And it's that same look and feel. Local scanners, you'll be able to use that anywhere in PaperSave. So if you have a local scanner, just make sure that it's Twain driver compliant, and it's something that you'll be able to use, again, anywhere in PaperSave to add documents right to that constituent, right? If you have, for example, different types of documents that you want to add into the system, we have ways for you to categorize these type of documents in the system, right? We can create what we call document types so that you can have its own drawer for those type of documents so that they're easily accessible, right? Constituent lost a gift agreement. You have a copy of that in PaperSave. Select that document. Here are your share options, right? Click on share. You can email them a file, right? We'll grab this file, put it into an email, let you address that email so that you can send that to that constituent. We also have email a link, right? So maybe this request came from somebody within your organization. They may not be a Blackbaud Razor's Edge user, but they may have rights to PaperSave, right? Because it's not one and the same. Razor's Edge users don't necessarily have to be, or PaperSave users, better said, don't necessarily have to be Razor's Edge users, right? So you can potentially send somebody a link or even copy a link if this came through like a Teams chat, right? Here's that document that you requested, put that on a Teams chat, they click on that link. If they have rights to PaperSave, they get to that document right from within that browser, right? So very easy to share documents once you have them in PaperSave, right? And this is all from I am a Razor's Edge user and I am a PaperSave user, right? If we go back to PaperSave and we go back to our homepage, right? We do have that search capability that we mentioned, right? Click on search and you have, again, simple search and advanced search. That simple search, really all you have to do is give it that one value. Again, you can use anything like a constituent name, a fund ID, or whatever the case may be. If you use a constituent name or a fund ID, that result may be quite large because you've been adding documents to different funds, same funds for quite a while. Constituent may have a lot of documents, but good use case of the simple search. Maybe I am not a Razor's Edge user, but I happen to have a batch number and I want to see those documents from within that batch. Click on enter. We're going to look for that batch number everywhere in PaperSave and give you a list of those documents. Ultimately, select those documents, and your share options are always going to be there anytime that you see documents in PaperSave. And this is another good way of downloading all of that audit trail for that batch, right? So if you search for a batch and you have a batch that is in question, you want to provide all of that audit trail, boom, search for that batch, click on download, and you can get to that data. Also, export to Excel. Click on export to Excel. We are going to put all of that batch information, put that into Excel for you. All of that coding goes into Excel. Click on edit here. What I like about this is, as I said, all of the coding is there for you. Plus, this link is the link back to the document, right? So you can use this for higher learning, for reporting purposes, export that batch, send that to higher learning. They can click on that link and get to that document as long as they have permissions in PaperSave to do so, right? Lastly, advanced search. Advanced search now allows you to configure build yourself a more robust search, right? A more defined search. Now you can get to search within PaperSave with a little bit of more intent. Here you can compose an and or an or filter. Click on that plus sign, use that drop down. And these are all values that you're going to be able to use to conduct a search within the system, right? Anything and everything, things like your appeals, packages, funds, who that gift processor was, check date if we're capturing that for you, check number, again, if we're capturing that for you. So all of this information that you see here, we will be able to use to conduct searches in the system. So ultimately, you can, let's say, gift date, let's say this is an audit scenario, less than today's date, we can do gift date again is greater than maybe the beginning of the year. And we can, again, continue to add filters, no restrictions. The only restrictions are the amount of filters that you have, right? So use them all and you can use them multiple times. So I have seen clients build themselves quite a robust search, but ultimately add those values, click on search. PaperSave is going to go out there, look for that data for you, bring that up to light. Now you have a way to report for all of that data. Select, download all of that audit trail if you'd like. You can export all of that data into Excel. If this is a report that you plan on reusing, you can save that report, right? Save it, name it accordingly, and you can actually share that with other users if you like, right? If you think that other users may benefit from this report, you can actually share that with other users. Next time somebody wants to use that report, click on advanced, load search, and now here's a list of all of those searches that were shared, right? Select that search, show that data, and you get a result based on that report, right? What I like about this though is that maybe I want to search a little bit different than whomever composed this, right? I can use the drop down here and I can always get to that criteria, right? So I can always modify those values and get to that data as needed, right? So a lot of good ways to use PaperSave, right? So with that said, we do have, as I mentioned, Joseph and Nick on the call. They will be able to follow up with link to this recording if you like, or just to be able to touch base with you.